Hello and welcome to That Film Blog UK Hot Takes. It's the show with hot
Oh.
takes and even hotter hosts.
No. Episode 20, everyone. And not only is it those things that you just listed, but also I think it's the podcast with the longest hiatuses between episodes. I've got nothing to back that up factually.
I'm gonna say that could be true.
It wouldn't shock me. It's just, the red tape getting these things together,
It's like the cast of Atlanta, I've probably made that joke before.
Euphoria season 3, like we're busy
Yeah.
now,
Yeah, we're all cooking, our own solo project.
Yeah,
Some more than others
compared to
for both
Jake
this podcast and Euphoria.
Yeah, there's the
Zendaya, all stars
Joking.
now. Zendaya was
Sydney
already
Sweeney.
a star.
Yeah, she was.
Sydney Sweeney, she is a star.
Can't watch the Spider-Man films, having now seen Euphoria anymore, and look at MJ the same, or probably June in a few weeks actually.
June.
No hot takes about June, because this is the hot takes episode. I feel circle back. No one said anything about June, which is probably good.
That's because there's nothing. I'm relieved no one. The hot take would be something negative, I would imagine.
I would literally ride out for June.
Yeah,
I would go.
I mean,
my guy Frank.
I've been listening to that the Armada song by Hans Zimmer, where the bagpipes come in when the Harkonnens are attacking. Yes. That song goes crazy hard.
I hate the Harkonnens.
I'm anti-Harkonnen.
I'm advocating for them just probably to leave Arrakis alone if they could. So, Baron, if you're listening to this, take notes.
Baron. I think you cut out slightly. It sounded like you said Aaron. I was like, Aaron.
Oh, no, I've got no beef with any Aarons I can think of. Wan-Bissaka.
Aaron Lennon, he was a Spurs player.
Yeah, but
Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Aaron Lennon had a rough personal life, so I don't want to.
Oh, yeah.
Kick
he
the
did.
guy. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, kind of.
You could kick
Shout
him.
Shout out Wamba-Goat.
Yeah,
actually, I'll tell you what's funny. Before we get into I went to see Gassed Up on last Friday, and they do there's one bit all the guys go to a party or a club night, and probably Panero and Young Philly there, but that's beside the point. The point is, a few of them get up on the stage and they're doing slam, the slam battles. It's not quite a rap battle, but it's where they're almost slam poetry disses to one another. And one of the guys, by this proper battle rapper, who basically says, "Oh, you look like Wan-Bissaka," and it's like the last thing you would ever expect is to be in a Cineworld and hear the name Aaron Wan-Bissaka in any context.
I wish you appeared in it. Yeah, Aaron and Wan-Bissaka a cameo in any film would go crazy hard.
To be honest, he probably is going to need to work soon because it's looking kind of mudded for him. Yeah.
Watford are 1-0 down. Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt you there. We're playing Norwich right now. I was hoping to, podcast recording at 7, watching the football by 7:45. But as is, ask anyone who's ever been cooked. I've ever cooked for. I always am very slow cooking. Predictions do not come into fruition ever.
It takes time. These things take time.
This is true.
We can listen in 10 years' time. The fans will listen back to this and think, that was back before Watford won the treble, I guess, if they're playing Norwich. So it'll be quite a nice little time capsule.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what treble you're talking about.
To a Sunderland to go back up the ladder. Obviously not in the same season. That would be impossible. But across.
Sorry, is this that football blog UK? Sorry, completely my fault. Of course, I got a notification. I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb so we don't get any more of that crap. Especially if Watford seeding lots.
What we have is 2 months ago now, over 2 months ago, we put a little call out on our X page. hot takes.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Related. Formerly known as Twitter before it started whiffing of Musk. Put out a call for hot takes. It's some time in the making, but we're ready. I've got them all listed here, and you haven't seen. Well, you've seen them, but you haven't got them in front of you, do you, Ollie?
I do not have them in front of me. I also don't have the official That Film Blog UK order, which we're going to be listening to them in.
And I have put them in an order with some purpose.
Yeah, so, that's a lot of effort goes into the show.
Yeah,
behind this.
It's more than just rock up and chew the fat. We're going to start off with one from Luke Griffiths. The funny thing about this one is when I was compiling this document, I couldn't find this specific hot take submission. I was scratching my head because I wanted to do this one first, just to sort of have a bit of fun with it. Because
I had a look earlier and it is no longer there. So I think it's either Mandela effect, but we all remember it being there. Or this person has come to the realization that what they wrote was nonsense.
Too little, too late, I'm afraid. There's hot takes, and then there's what you're about to hear. Now, obviously, because it's stated, I don't have the precise wording. So
I think it was just those 3 words.
Okay, well, that's what I've written down.
With the first word spelt wrong, I think.
Oh yes, right. So what it is?
I think there were 2 C's.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the message in question was Scorsese is mid, I believe.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember this when I was writing, so I put Martin Scorsese.
I'm glad you put this one first.
Yeah, I just wanted this one because I think we haven't discussed this. We need like a verdict system, whether it's like, this fine, whatever, we'll allow this hot take, or whether it's stupid.
This is our white whale. That's a Moby Dick reference for anyone who doesn't get that one.
No,
we are obsessed with taking this thing down. This hot take.
This one had to go first because also, if you think in terms of pure listener retention, they've got to hear this one first. This guy has to get found first. Scorsese is mid. What are we? Actually, saying the words is just not.
Scorsese is mid. It is one of the worst takes I have ever heard. Because we're talking about arguably the greatest filmmaker alive, with a consistency and an output that is quite simply unrivaled. The guy is 80 years old. He's been putting films out for, it is now over 50 years.
It's been dropping like prime Gucci Mane, his consistency. It's constant.
Yeah. I think I'm led to believe that there's a bit of a backlash against Martin Scorsese for his comments that he made about Marvel films being roller coasters. He got a lot of backlash from what I would call nerds.
Maybe this is what this is.
Dweebs. Whether this Luke Griffiths person is such a loser or a dweeb, I don't know. We do need to do more fan outreach, sort of get to know these fans. But so I don't know whether that's why he has a thing against Martin Scorsese, or if it's the length of his films. I think that puts a lot of people off.
I think Luke Griffiths here has gone into Killers of the Flower Moon and thought, "Wow, too long, need intermission, etc." The TikTok generation of Family Guy clips on the background of something to keep your attention span going. That's probably the root cause of the problem here.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Killers of the Flower Moon, because that is, in my opinion, his best film. It's my personal favourite.
Wow.
Which I think that could possibly be a hot take in itself.
That is a hot take.
Yeah, I think it's. I think in many ways it sums up his. Well, I don't know about that, but it's a summation, I guess is a better way of putting it, of his career.
See, that's interesting, because I thought that precisely about The Irishman, how that was like his swan song. After everything he'd done, it was like closing the chapter.
You know what? You are right. You are right. You've got me there. Irishman is more of a summation. But also, now we're getting into the meat and drink, as Derek Ray would put it.
He would.
Of this podcast, because The Killers of the Flower Moon, not The Killer, sorry. Killers of the Flower Moon, I think is better than The Irishman, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. So I have
Yeah,
people on my side, maybe. Um,
I think the
I think
consensus is probably there.
it's a more powerful film. Um, I think there's a lot. I do
Yeah,
like The Irishman. I actually did a Scorsese list recently where I ranked them, and I do, as someone who does really like The Irishman, I was still putting it. I think it was sixth or seventh
ooh, yeah,
in
you're
my
probably not
list.
wrong.
Um,
I just think in terms of like
it
post,
it felt like a swan song, but then Scorsese said, "I've got one more in me," and then I think he's already planning at least 2 more films. So he's got a
Jesus,
few
90
more
minute
in him.
Jesus film, that is gonna hit
Yeah, 90-minute Jesus
differently.
film, and then there was. I remember reading an article about him and DiCaprio getting the rights for a novel, no, a non-fiction story, sorry, called The
Hmm.
Wager, which is about some naval boat or something. There's a mutiny on it, something to do with that, which
I will
is
be there.
something that would excite me greatly. Um,
So what I think we can surmise here is Griffith's take, thumbs down.
but but
Thumbs,
I feel like we haven't really even we're so passionate about this guy. We've just been chatting about him. We haven't really taken down this point because
yeah,
you've got to
let's
think about
let's
the
put our
films this
objective
guy
hat on.
has put out.
Mid.
Um, Taxi Driver. I think ask any anyone working in film, anyone who uh, loves film, and Taxi Driver stands out as a picture, as Martin Scorsese would call it,
You
that
would.
lives long in the memory. It's powerful, and it was such a unique film at the time, and it was so groundbreaking. I think in many ways. Uh, uh, this was in the 70s. Martin Scorsese would say that this is when independent directors and films were being made like there was no tomorrow, and
It was
the
punk.
result of that was films like Taxi Driver, which completely went against all sort of rules about how you make films, what films are about, um, and everything like that. And that was what his I think it was his third proper film. I think he did one
Mm.
before Mean Streets, but I think he counts Mean Streets as his first proper film.
If
Um,
I'm playing devil's advocate on this take, I would say Mean Streets isn't that good. Um,
I think Mean Streets is it doesn't obviously reach the heights of his other work, but I think it's a film that I think you can tell is very personal, and
yeah,
it's the film he felt he had to make at that time, and I think it's strong characters,
it is.
very
You can
likable
see the
characters.
DNA
Well,
of where he
uh,
goes.
absolutely, and I think it was The Departed. Martin Scorsese, when it was being released and he was doing publicity and everything, he said that this is the first film I've ever done with an actual plot. Because a lot of his films up till that point, which was 2006, had just been sort of about characters and following characters, and obviously things happen in their lives and stuff.
Yeah,
But The Departed has a very clear plot, and that's what I like about Scorsese. I think his films are about lives rather than
guys being
stories.
dudes.
Often they are about guys being dudes.
Which I then, circling back to the take, guess you could argue up until Killers of the Flower Moon, and then I'd maybe say Casino and Sharon Stone's character is an exception. He's never been amazing with women in his films, just in terms of whether they're highlighted in the stories or not. Is something that got heavily criticised from The Irishman with Anna Paquin's character.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
a valid point. If you just look at his track record, it's not really until Lily Gladstone in this film where it was sort of the of the.
so what I think you cut out slightly there.
I apologise. Sort of the character that you're most meant to identify with and not sympathise even necessarily, but just care about the most magnetic
Yeah,
character, I would say.
yeah.
So I suppose in that take, from that lens, sure. But something in me says this Lou Griffiths guy hasn't seen many Scorsese films,
I
this
have a
conclusion.
feeling he's probably seen Wolf of Wall Street and didn't even know it was Scorsese. And that would probably be his favourite Scorsese film because
I
it's.
think you are right. I don't know, but
Uh,
I assume you're right.
it's just a
Um,
guess. Or maybe he's more of a Hugo man. Maybe he likes Hugo.
maybe he was put off by Hugo. Was the only other
Well, I'm just
example I
thinking
can think of.
if he's sort of familiar with Scorsese's body of work, I think Hugo is the one film that goes sort of completely against that grain.
Yeah, but is it mid? I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Hugo? I have seen Hugo.
No,
It's not mid. It's better than mid, but it's not
it
great.
feels Scorsese. So I can't see a way where it does.
To be honest, when I saw it, I can't say I saw it many years ago. I can't say I was watching it through the lens of this is a Scorsese film. So I don't know, but I remember enjoying it. I think it's a good film, and it's an ode to cinema. That was the one thing that stuck with me is that it's a man who loves cinema making a film about cinema.
And that's what he does. He bloody loves it. And he doesn't
He
like
loves
all of this nonsense, this roller
roller
coaster,
coaster rides. Yeah,
popcorn nonsense. And for that, I salute you, Marty. I'll be there.
we
Day one,
salute you,
no
and
matter
we
what.
will be there for every film you make until you
I will
die.
be there
Which
for
hopefully isn't
Jesus.
too soon. Yeah,
Hopefully, yeah, we've got a little
we will be
while.
there for Jesus. Yeah, but I mean, he
I
still
maybe,
seems it's all there in his head. It seems.
yeah. He's showing no signs of slowing. Literally, he is showing no signs of slowing. The guy's looking on full gas. But
Yeah,
this take isn't. This take is full ass. So,
and well, this take is pure gas. It's nonsense.
yes, it is.
It's rubbish.
So, thumbs
Scorsese
down.
is
I
not
think.
mid.
No.
He is consistently put out fantastic films for 50 years. So,
Yeah.
not mid. If anything, the hot take should be is the best because then we'd be getting into an interesting debate.
Even then, I wouldn't say it's that controversial.
No, it's not that
I
controversial.
really wouldn't.
People think he is the best. He's been called the greatest living filmmaker, I think, for many years now by many people.
What we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is an edgelord trying to with a different take. Hence why
He was probably trying to bait us, and we've talked at length now about.
We've talked about 15 minutes about it, so he has sort of.
So in that sense, he has a small victory, but he deleted the tweet.
We lost?
But he deleted the tweet, and we still remembered it because we were so rattled by it. So we'll see. We'll see whether or not, in the long term, this Luke Griffiths, was that his name?
Something like that. Griffith, singular? No, plural. Just checking.
It sounds like a Welsh. Well, that's a Welsh name, so presumably he's from Wales.
I might bump into him.
Yeah, you could bump into him.
Not to dox myself.
Yeah,
it's a thumbs down, that take.
Thumbs down. I don't think we'll get a worse take. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't think we'll get a worse take.
I don't think you're wrong. So in some ways, this podcast is only downhill from here. So strap in, everyone.
Yeah.
Next up, I quite like this one. And one thing I just want to say before we get into it, I think we can thumbs up a take that we don't necessarily agree with. In my opinion,
as in the hot take is acceptable to have.
Yeah, it's fair. I don't agree with you, but fair enough. It's not.
Yeah.
Outrageous. So the next one comes from someone called Trilermo. Not a name I've heard before. Not one I've sort of seen.
No. Presumably it's an online sort of persona, pen name.
Maybe it's Argentinian or
pseudonym.
In which case it would be Trilermo.
Yeah, it does. Trilermo, yeah.
I like
I
this
can see
one.
that actually, yeah. Let's say what he has to say, or she.
The Star Wars franchise was saved by the prequels, although I put a full stop. Without them, the franchise wouldn't be half as popular as it is these days. Now, I think those are two different takes in one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
The first one, the Star Wars franchise was saved by the prequels, I think is irrefutable facts. They came at a time... Oh, see, even then, there's nuance to it. Because...
It's a great take.
This is fantastic. Would I just want to unpack this first bit. The Star Wars franchise was saved by the prequels. Do you think people were saying that even at the time, but like after Attack of the Clones? I don't. But do you think people were saying that after Revenge of the Sith? Maybe.
Well, I was going to say before the prequels, obviously started releasing around the time we were both born. So
Right.
it's hard to say what the kind of mood was on Star Wars at the time. It would have. It was what sort of. Is it around 15, just over 15 years since Return of the Jedi? Is that about right?
I think it was. I think Return of the Jedi was 83. I want to say so.
3. So
Like
that's like 16 years, I think.
16. Yeah, there or thereabouts.
So you got to think that for us to accurately decide whether it was saved, it's hard to say because I don't know what did people want more Star Wars or were they happy with how it ended? It's something I can't answer.
Yeah.
But the second
Although one
part,
thing, the second part, without them, the franchise wouldn't be half as popular as it is these days. There's more nuance to that.
I think that part is 100% true. I think a lot of people our age, younger, the prequels are held in very high regard. Even if I think a lot of people that like the prequels would admit they're not perhaps on the same filmmaking caliber as the original trilogy. I think that people love those films nonetheless.
They do.
And people are very passionate about the prequels, and there's a lot of cultural attachment to those films. Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, but I'm less convinced on. Without them, the franchise wouldn't be half as popular as it is these days because how popular was Star Wars in, let's say, 2012 when the prequels were done and dusted? All there was in terms of Star Wars was Clone Wars. It wasn't that. It's only since the Disney buyout in 2012 and then the sequels and then the Disney shows. Honestly, I think if we're going off the wording here of these days, I think The Mandalorian has more to do with how popular Star Wars is in 2024, prequels necessarily. But I completely agree that for a specific generation of the probably 95 to 2005 kids, it is the prequels that the more attachment than
I'd say
any
even
other
earlier than that,
Star
because
Wars.
you got the people that were sort of even teenagers when those films started coming out. So that goes back far as you know,
Mm,
late 80s. And what I would say is that I think a lot of people, because a lot of people have grown tired of the sort of what Disney has done to Star Wars, and I think the reason that so many people are still, fawning over or excited, fawning over is the wrong word, are still excited about new Star Wars content is because of the passion that those prequels ignited, and that's a large chunk of the audience for those shows and films would have been from introduced, I should say, to
mm,
that universe through the prequels. Because I can't
yeah,
imagine people that loved Star Wars when it obviously there are a lot of them, but I think a large percentage of the people that love Star Wars these days were introduced through the prequels.
agree. And I think the prequels were also like, what's the word? Like a jump start, sort of an experimental, just not the films necessarily, but the world around them because it was so different to the galaxy you see in the original trilogy. Like if you
Yeah.
look at the first Star Wars TV show, it was, if you want to be nitpicky, it was the 2D animated Clone Wars show released around the same time as it was between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. If you want to be less pedantic, it's the animated 3D Clone Wars show. It was 2008 and then wrapped up a few years ago, but was here and about everywhere else. That was the first time you'd seen Star Wars outside of, not outside of the films, because all the extended universe, whatever, books, comics, but on the big and small screens. That was where they tried long form, outside of films for the first time, would there be a Mandalorian show if we hadn't already seen through Clone Wars that you could tell Star Wars across a TV format that isn't just a 2-hour film? I don't know.
I don't think so.
It's a great take. The Star Wars
It's
franchise was
fascinating,
saved by the prequels.
and it opens up a lot of a wealth of discussion and debate, which most of which we can't get into on our due to our tight schedules.
No, this is one thing I will say is the Star Wars franchise was saved. I'm just running it through in my head. The Star Wars franchise was saved by the prequels. Do you think there are people who loved the original trilogy, and there isn't a right or wrong answer because we don't know, but loved the original trilogy and were like, let's say, kids when that came out, then there were adults when the prequels first released, hated the prequels and has turned them off forever, which would then counteract this take. Do you think that's the case? But do you think those people have been won back by Force Awakens and bringing back the old characters, and then the stuff set around the original trilogy that's come out since? In those cases, because there will be people who hate the prequels and hate Jar Jar and hate Hayden Christensen and all that. But I don't know. I just feel like there are a lot of people that have affinity for the prequels. Who did?
I think there are probably, to answer your question, a lot of people that were turned off to Star Wars by the prequels, but I think the number of people that were turned on to, maybe not turned on, but turned on by Jar Jar Binks. I don't know about that. If you are turned on by Jar Jar Binks, tweet us.
Yeah,
just
really
tweet us.
Written
Don't send any media, please.
But
to go back to what I was saying, I think the prequels, whether or not they saved Star Wars, because I think Star Wars, the original trilogy, did have a big impact and people loved them.
Yeah,
but I think it brought Star Wars to a new generation and continued the love that had been seen for the original trilogy.
Yeah,
in a organic way.
Every generation probably needs that they can feel is their Star Wars. There'll be a generation younger than us who has that with Baby Yoda.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
I don't care for the Mandalorian, but there's. I guess I agree with your analogy. I think that is absolutely nailed. And Trello, my friend, I hope we could be friends. I'm going to give that take a thumbs up, not only for the interesting conversation it's stimulated, but for the nuance you put on display.
I give it a thumbs up also. Thank you, Trello, for that hot take that provokes thought, discussion, and admiration, I think, for Trello.
Yeah, big respect.
A wise soul.
Yoda-esque.
Yeah, maybe this Trello was around for the original trilogy, and this person thinks that. They thought.
I think that must be the case.
Yeah. It seems like a wise old soul. Yeah, absolutely correct.
Okay,
What's next?
Kevin Tucker. Now, I love Kevin. I used to work with Kevin at a site a few years ago now. A lot of time for Kevin. Mad Max Fury Road was a steaming pile of poo emoji.
Right. Where do you stand on this?
You want my honest answer? I'm not anti it. I don't think it's a steaming pile of poo emoji. I also think it's nowhere near as good as Mad Max 2. Mad Max 2 is one of the best action films ever. It was so groundbreaking for its time. And Fury Road isn't as good as that. And Furiosa, this isn't.
But is it a steaming pile of
no,
of duty,
no,
of poo emoji,
no,
feces, of shit?
Yes, no.
You don't think it is that way? I do not. I certainly don't think it's that. And I remember seeing. I didn't see Mad Max 2 to sort of get into what you were discussing in the cinema. I have seen it, and I remember enjoying it. I remember much preferring it to the original Mad Max.
Mm.
And yeah, Mad Max 2 is a very good film. And as you say, groundbreaking for its time. But I think to some extent, Mad Max Fury Road was, in my opinion, groundbreaking for its time.
I had a
I
feeling
think
you'd say that.
the scale of which we see in that film is unbelievable. I think this this former colleague of yours is wrong. I think Mad Max Fury Road is a brilliant film. It's one of the best action films I've ever seen. It's got fantastic characters. The action is amazing. The Doof Warrior, is that his name? The guitar. It's original. It's fun. It's got a fantastic a Furiosa. Saving the wives. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So to say it's a steaming pile of hot duty is a strong thumbs down from me. If someone said, "Do you want to go to the cinema right now and go see Mad Max Fury Road?" I'd get in my car and I'd go. Well, I did have a beer earlier, so maybe I wouldn't drive, but I would get in the passenger seat.
Or just do a little breathalyzer first.
I don't actually have that. Yeah, maybe not right now. Maybe in an hour.
Yeah. Let it soak. We'll have some bread or
But
rice.
That is, I think, it's a fantastic film. I think Tom Hardy does an excellent. He's not Mel Gibson. I think, thankfully. But a lot of people didn't see him as Mad Max, and then they saw the film and sort of won over. And then Charlize Theron. Can't remember his name, but the villain in that film is excellent. Obviously the same actor as the original villain in Mad Max, the first one. The actor. It's like Ian Keary Byrne or something. Is that right? I think it's something like that. The character.
The Immortan Joe, Hugh Keys Byrne.
Immortan Joe. Hugh. Oh, it was pretty close.
You were.
I don't know where I got Ian from. But I think it's excellent, and it's very. I'm not a woman, but I think so. And if you are a woman and you disagree with me, please let us know. I'm always up for listening and learning. But I think it's different to a lot of action films in that it's. I don't know why I said that. That might not be true. But it's the female empowerment on show is palpable. Charlize Theron is an absolute powerhouse in that film, and then they obviously go to the green. I can't remember what it's called. The Greenland. It's meant to be green, which obviously we will be seeing more of in the Furiosa prequel starring Anya Taylor-Joy, which I believe comes out. Is it May or June? May. So I'm very excited for that. That's George Miller back in the hot seat, of course, and that I'm very excited for it. And that excitement comes from just how good Mad Max Fury Road was. That's my piece.
While I agree the take is a thumbs down, I think if you were to tone the language to like Mad Max Fury Road is overrated / not the best in the franchise, I would give that a thumbs up. I would also say on the Furiosa note, from what we've seen so far, it looks kind of derivative and just basically.
I don't. It does look.
I don't really see what it can do differently. Like, say what you want, but the first 4 Mad Max films are all very different stylistically, aesthetically to the next. This doesn't look like that. I know it's a very direct prequel, so they have to keep a degree of consistency. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. That's not a point I would argue against. It does look very similar.
Yeah, well, that isn't the taking Mad Max Fury Road as a steam pile of poo emoji. I think we can both sort of chop that.
Thumbs down. But thank you for responding.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
What's next?
As I say, so these next 2, I'm combining 2 because they're sort of touching a similar veneer. The first is from my good friend Richard Bryce. He said, "I think the Marvel films get better as they go along, with the most recent ones being the best." And then
Mm.
the second one is from Josh Brown, another former colleague of mine, different website, another former colleague, lovely guy. There are two bits to this. We can not scrap, but the first one we can sort of judge on very quickly. Marvels was loads of fun, and Killers of the Flower Moon was far too long.
Mm.
Probably both put a nip in the bud. The second part, I don't think
But
Killers of the Flower Moon.
I'll quickly touch on Killer of the Flower Moon's length. I've seen it twice. The second time, I sort of had in mind having seen the film already, what would I potentially, cut out?
Yeah,
And honestly, there's not really that much. There's obviously a scene here and there, but those scenes, I think, when I'm thinking about it, they still add, something to characters or
Mm.
to a sort of, pacing or, they feel that they all serve a purpose, whether it's to the
yeah,
plot or the characters or pacing, etc. They all do serve a purpose, and
I agree.
I don't think Killers of the Flower Moon is too long. And recently, I watched a young adult series prequel, which I shan't name.
Young adults.
And that I watched the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh right, yeah.
Not that recently, and I'm not going to get into it. I did consider this being my hot take because I really hated it to an
Yeah.
extent that is not that common. Where I really despise the film as much as I hate this,
No.
but that film was 2 hours 40, so 50 minutes shorter than Killers of the Flower Moon, and it felt twice as long. Maybe not twice as long as Killers
Yeah,
of the Flower Moon.
it definitely felt
That would,
longer.
but it felt longer, and I think Killers of the Flower Moon is long.
Yeah, it is, but it needs to be that long for what it's trying to
But
say.
it's an epic story that's you know you can't really skimp on
No,
telling that story, and yeah, I don't think it's too long. I think
no,
it's
I
just
agree.
right. I've
So,
said my piece. So what was the other?
yeah.
It was about the other part was about.
But now we go back to the Marvels. Not the
I
Marvel.
haven't
Well,
seen it,
partly
so
the
you're gonna have to
Marvel.
take the lead on this one.
Okay, so it combines Richards, which was Marvel films get better as they go along, and then the Marvels was loads of fun. Marvels was loads of fun. I probably would disagree because without, I don't want to spoil the end credit. There is nothing to spoil for the hour and a half of the film. Like, there is no ramifications on anything, which is
What's it
fine.
even
And it's
about? What's it even about?
it's
Apart from
like
obviously Captain Marvel, Brie Larson.
what is it, like a body swap adventure with Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and then Monica Rambeau. And then
Is
Zoe.
that Lashana Lynch?
Uh,
The woman who's in Captain
she's
Marvel.
in. No, it's the young kid in Captain Marvel. Tiona Paris plays her. It's the daughter of Lashana Lynch's character.
Oh yes. Okay.
It's all in one division. The build up to that. It was fine. It was exactly what I expected it to be.
Just quickly touch on you saying that was all in one division. This is why I didn't go see it, because I'm bored of the whole Marvel thing, which I guess leads into the next one.
Yeah, I would say to an extent they do get better as they go along. If we go pure MCU, well, it's like a bell-shaped curve, I'd say. The first phase, aside from the first Iron Man, is pretty bad. The first Thor film,
it
bad.
Is.
Iron Man 2,
pretty
bad.
weak. And Captain
The first
America
Avengers
1
film,
isn't great.
not great. Phase 2, it got a bit better. Everyone likes Captain America and Soldier. I'm not crazy about it. I haven't rewatched it once in the 10 years since it came out.
No, me
First
neither.
Guardians of the Galaxy, I really like. It's probably my favourite MCU film.
I did like Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, Phase 3, let's say 2017.
You got Black Panther in there, which I think is pretty good. Shouldn't have been nominated for Best Picture, but that could be a hot take in itself.
Yeah.
Was it?
2017 to maybe 20. 19, I'd say, is peak MCU. So in that sense, I agree they get better as they go along. Because in that era, it was like Captain America: Civil War, good film. Black Panther, pretty good film. Infinity War and Endgame, both good films. Ragnarok, good film. Spider-Man: Homecoming, good film. They were. It wasn't. Not every single one was a banger, because for them you had Ant-Man the Wasp and
Not great.
well, there was another one that isn't amazing in my opinion. Spider-Man: Far From Home, I don't rate. Guardians 2, don't rate. But the highs, that's when the highs are highest, and then after Endgame, it gets bad because they don't know what they're doing, and there's too much stuff coming out. I don't need a show every 3 months.
It's
I've
to
watched
quote
nearly everything. So little of it is necessary.
A hero of mine.
Oh,
it's like the Marvel films are, a bit of butter spread over too much toast, or something along those lines.
this is true. This is true.
It's a lot of story being spread far too thin, and it's hard to care. Not that I've watched too much post Avengers Endgame. In fact, I saw Black Widow in cinema because that was sort of.
Oh yeah.
It was post. Well, it was the second time cinemas I think reopened, because I think they opened and then shut again. So I went to see that because I was like, I just want to go to the cinema. It's been so long, and I thought Black Widow was awful, utterly terrible. I hated it. It was laughably bad.
Not all of them. The only film since Endgame where I've had much sort of attachment is Spider-Man: No Way Home,
and
which I think is great.
This could be. I might insert a hot take there, and it's not a good film.
Okay, that's crazy.
It's not a good film. The only enjoyment I got from that was seeing, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. But other than that, and I guess you could say that's the film, but it's actually not, because they don't appear for like 90 minutes, I think, at least.
It
felt like
over
90 minutes.
Journey to that, and the film,
and the whole when he's fighting with Doctor Strange, I've just thought, this is utter fun. No, it's awful.
What I think No Way Home is just a celebration of the character and his history in cinema. It's like a greatest hit reel.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a greatest hits reel, but you don't say.
It's not as well directed as Homecoming.
You don't say ABBA's best album. That's a bad example. You don't say Pink Floyd's best album is their greatest hits album. No, you say it's one of the albums, because that was actually good and actually had a sort of. It felt like an album.
I don't think Spider-Man
No Way Home was.
It's not even the second best Spider-Man film. But
No Way Home?
I still like it. Yeah, it's probably. I'd put it third of all the Spider-Man films.
I think we were getting symptoms of what was to come with Marvel. It probably had already been coming, but
yeah,
sort of just the CGI. I thought it was bad writing.
Cameo porn.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much what it's become, and that's also impacted Star Wars, which is just a Disney issue.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to think outside of that. Deadpool 3, I'm quite looking forward to. Deadpool and Wolverine, I do. It's the same thing. It's like nostalgia bait.
Eternals, is that any good? Because I do like Chloe Zhao, but people didn't like that, really so I never watched it.
It's very dull. Donkey was mid. What else come out? Thor: Love and Thunder, bad. Actively
people really hated that. Yeah.
Ant-Man: Quantumania, bad. There was another one that came out last year.
Yeah, I think since Avengers, I've only seen Black Widow and
I've seen nearly every show. The only show I haven't seen is Ms. Marvel. Of all the
and none of the shows.
She-Hulk is actually quite good. I quite like She-Hulk, and Night was all right, but that is like pretty much entirely detached from the rest of the MCU. Then WandaVision was not great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was bad. Secret Invasion was bad. Co was not great. Although what I would say is, to sort of wrap it up, I'm more excited for the future of the MCU than I have been for a little while, because we've got Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think will be fun, even if it isn't amazing. And even if it is just nostalgia bait, I do think it'll be a good time. I can't wait to see Hugh Jackman. I can't wait to see how meta it goes. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm hoping for a takedown of the MCU, like the one I would like to see it receive. Yeah.
Daredevil, Born Again. I'm quite looking forward to as a show. I love the Daredevil Netflix show. I love the character. It seems there's been a lot of behind the scenes. There's been a behind the scenes mess in the MCU pretty much since Endgame. You can kind of tell they've got no idea what to do for the long term. The good thing about those first 10 years was they knew exactly what story they wanted to tell and through which films they were going to tell it. Now they're trying to do too much.
And I had an end in sight as well.
Yeah, with this new multiverse saga, which is set to end, I think, 2027 or 26. They've not even got directors, I don't think, for those Avengers films.
The Blade. I think the Marvel ship is quite plain to see that ship is sinking.
It is. And you just need to look at the numbers. The Marvels was the lowest grossing of however 34 or 35 films they've done. People aren't as invested in it, as blindly loyal. If you think about the first Captain Marvel doing $1 billion back in 2019, and then the sequel, I don't think it did 500 million worldwide. Like, that's crazy. The comparison you need. People vote with their wallets, they're not happy. So I would say, but I agree to an extent the Marvel films get better as they go. They also then drop off worse than they were.
The most recent ones have easily been the worst. If what you say is believed. Like I said, I've only seen 2 of them since.
You might disagree, but yes, it's the least since about 2014 where I first started catching up. I'd say the past 2-ish years have been the least bothered I've been about keeping up with everything. So I'm going to have to down thumb and get better as they go. Well, maybe it's like half because they did, and then they really didn't. So, and then the Marvels being loads of fun, I'm going to also have to down thumb because
I can't comment, but
I say the post-credits scene was the only part of that film where I was anything above like hovering on consciousness and sleep, because the rest of it is exactly what you expect it to be, which isn't good anymore. So, right, we've got a couple we can just rattle off because they're pretty sort of simple for us to cut teeth into, unpick, get back out. First up, Joe Davis. This is an interesting take. Treasure Planet is the best Disney movie.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. Okay, that's fine. I can pretty much say thumbs down. It's all right.
What is the best? What is the best Disney movie?
Disney or Pixar. If we're going pure Disney classic, The Lion King.
Oh yeah, that's
if we go Disney plus Pixar, we go Monsters Inc.
I'm a big. If we're talking recent, I'm a big fan of the original Wreck-It Ralph. I think that's an excellent film.
I didn't like that. It took me a long time to get through it.
What? Wreck-It Ralph 2 Breaks the Internet is not good, but the original's great, I think. Really good film.
One thing I will say is Treasure Planet is definitely better than Wish. So
haven't seen that either. My lack of cinema watching is not looking good. But I've actually been loads, I swear. Follow me on Letterboxd.
Just things outside of this. So I'm going to thumbs down that one. Next up is actually my take, so I technically don't get to say.
Oh.
I could say this place, but I think it's pretty easy. Wes Anderson is supremely overrated and has never made a great film. Now, I should say I've only seen Darjeeling Limited, Grand Budapest. That might be it. But there's a reason I haven't got to watch the rest of them, because I find it dull.
So you've seen 2 films, and you're judging his entire filmography
I'm
off
just
those
saying,
2 films.
I don't like his films. I don't like any of them. I have no desire to go and watch any of those.
So let's say the take again. He is overrated.
Wes Anderson is
might be
supremely
something I agree
overrated.
with.
He's never made a great film.
but I do disagree with he's never made a great film.
What is?
I'm a big fan of Grand Budapest Hotel.
I didn't care for it.
That is, I think that is sort of the zenith of what he offers. Everything coming together in a fantastic way. I think Ralph Fiennes is. Whenever Ralph Fiennes get mentioned in this, I feel the need to say this, but I think he is one of the best actors working. I think Ralph Fiennes is excellent. But that's Grand Budapest Hotel is him sort of at the top of his game. I think it's funny, it's charming, and like it's every film Wes Anderson makes is his style, and I think that's kind of to some extent that's why I didn't sort of respond to the French Dispatch too much, because it was Wes Anderson, on steroids. But I feel like that all his films recently have been doing that. I haven't actually seen Asteroid City, but that's what people, that's the exact same criticism that Asteroid City had. But
that's my issue.
I was a big fan of. I'm trying to think which films have I seen. I think I've seen 5 or 6. Darjeeling Limited I have seen, and I did like that.
I didn't mind that film. I preferred it to Grand Budapest.
It didn't wow me. Fantastic Mr. Fox, his stop motion Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs, I think are both really good films as well.
I think I'd like them more than. I think the problem I've had is the films just become his little style rather than anything more than that. It's just style over substance. It's fine in some cases,
and to some extent, I don't think you're wrong. But
the one-trick pony.
I think his style is so sort of singular and unique. I think when it works, like I believe it worked in Grand Budapest Hotel, and his stop motion films. I think the most from the ones I've seen. I think Moonrise Kingdom is overrated. I didn't respond hugely to that one. But yeah, I wouldn't disagree that he is possibly slightly overrated, but not supremely. I think, as you put it. So I'm going to put
has never made a great film.
I think on the whole, I have to give it a thumbs down, because I think a lot of it. I would concede that he's maybe slightly overrated, but not supremely overrated, and he has made great films.
So I get a wobbly thumb.
Yeah, it's
hovering.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Okay.
We've heard worse takes tonight. I'll say that.
Oh yes. Martin's called Kiki. That first abomination would say. Next up, Richard Price. And I think this is interesting. Musicals make great films, and they should be advertised as such. Now, I see this as a response to the marketing for Wonka and Mean Girls, the most recent one, where they didn't make it clear at all in the marketing that these were musicals. And I don't know if you've seen the Mean Girls reboot. I know you've seen Wonka, and I know we both.
I haven't seen Mean Girls. I do need.
It's not as good as the original, but I quite like.
Probably go out of cinemas soon.
Yeah, probably will. I agree with this take. They should be advertised as such. There's no.
I agree with that.
What they're going to do. I don't think people are put off necessarily by something being a musical. Audiences.
And if they are, why are they being funded and made? Doesn't make any sense. Well. I guess the people that actually fund them aren't the marketing team, but still.
It's weird because a lot of the classic Disney. I mean, Frozen's a musical. Not classic Disney, but I'm saying in terms of stuff that contemporary and does really well. But
I feel like you hear some of the songs before the film comes out to sort of generate a bit of buzz, a bit of hype.
Yeah, I don't know if I have for those two recent examples. But I definitely agree that it's pointless to not market them as a musical because
people will be disappointed, frustrated,
and it's intrinsic to both of those films. Like you come out of Wonka and you're thinking of the songs. I know I was. I saw it twice in cinemas, and it's strange that would be an element to hide, especially when it's gone on and done really well. So I agree with this take. Musicals make great films. I don't know. I'm not crazy about musicals. I never have been.
Yeah,
It's probably the
I've
genre
never been that crazy about musicals either.
I
To be
like.
fair,
I think my favourite musical, and I don't know if you could class it as one, is A Star Is Born. I don't know
that's
if
not
that
a musical.
counts. See,
That's a
I
film
think
about music.
that
There's
might be a
songs
hot
in
take
it.
in itself.
That's because it's about musicians. But I'd say a
Yeah,
musical
but
is
this
a film where they're sort of singing
one
to sort of
for everyone in a way.
yeah, everyone's singing. They're all in dance. Obviously, not all musical numbers have everyone singing or dancing. But Star Is Born is not a musical. It's a musical drama in the sense that it's about
Fine.
musicians. Also,
I'm going to give a
Brad,
thumbs up to this take.
yeah, thumbs up from me. Also,
Burton.
how many
Okay,
more do we have?
4 more.
Four
They're both
more.
in they're both in 2 blocks, I'd say.
Okay.
These next 2 were quite relevant, and then the last 2 I'm looking forward to. So, this first one comes from Lewis White, who is another person I used to work with, another lovely, lovely guy. Batman vs Superman Ultimate Edition. I'm going to break this down sentence by sentence. Batman vs Superman Ultimate Edition is actually brilliant. It has its issues, but it's a more somber take on superheroes and reality without being the boys' satire, which is refreshing and works well with Snyder's world building of Gotham versus Metropolis. Which then brings us on to this take from Will Hinton, who listeners will remember from our Batman Roundtable just about 2 years ago now. Says
Wow.
Zack Snyder had a clear vision for the DCEU, which he should have been allowed to continue. They're obviously not quite the same argument. There's enough to unpack. And Lewis White also in this tweet also says Bottoms
They're
was the
both
worst
pro
comedy in years.
Snyder.
Yes, they're both pro Snyder. This last bit, as I say, is separate. Bottoms was the worst comedy in years. First of all, I'm gonna thumbs that down, and then I'm gonna provide 2 words, and that's the extent that I'm willing to address this. Dirty Grandpa. I think
Yeah,
that's what it's
I
called.
think worst comedy
Bad
in years.
Grandpa.
Even if you didn't really like Bottoms, which I did like Bottoms, I thought it was very funny. There are a lot of worst comedies.
Yeah.
You got to question: is Bottoms worse than Dirty Grandpa? And as someone who is a big Aubrey Plaza fan, I think the answer is no. It's not worse than Good Dirty Grandpa.
As someone whose favourite actor is Robert De Niro.
Well, technically, that gives you more of a reason to hate it because what is he doing?
He's chasing a bag to some extent, and how?
But in regard to those other takes about the DCEU and Batman versus Superman, I cannot again offer my my 2 pence because the only DCEU film I've seen is Man vs Steel.
Man versus Steel. Who won?
Man of Steel. See, that's how little I'm thinking about what I'm saying here, guys. Man of Steel, the Zack Snyder Superman film starring the delectable. Is that right? Delectable Agent Argyle. Henry Cavill.
One of the worst on-screen haircuts I've ever seen. That's completely irrelevant. But
I backed it, but
looks like an
rocked it.
action figure. Now I've seen. I don't think I've seen all the DCUs. Again, it's something that I've dropped off of. I haven't seen first Aquaman, the first Shazam. That might be the only ones I haven't seen. I've seen the second of both of those series, which is its whole other thing. I agree that Batman v Superman Ultimate Edition is good. I like Batman v Superman. I was very hyped for it at the time. I saw it the day it came out in cinemas. I bought it the second it came out on digital, and I bought it the second it came out on Blu-ray. I read the prequel novel. I was obsessed around that point. That was probably the peak of my Batman fandom in that era, at least. Even though it's still sort of bubbled consistently since. I agree. The edition version is it's definitely better, but it is still 3 hours long, and I still think the problems that film has aren't problems that can be fixed by adding half an hour on. Like, it is just... Although, to be fair, Lewis addresses this. It has its issues, but it's a more somber take on superheroes and reality. Which is true. The MCU would never sort of send Iron Man to a congressional hearing about the impact of his battles on the collateral damage they've caused. It's an interesting idea to look at. You see people who, like, firsthand were injured in the fight in Metropolis and Man of Steel, how they build up this resentment towards Superman for that, and how he's heralded as a hero, but he's caused all this damage, which, again, I think is a very interesting idea. It was also then Zack Snyder sort of took on the feedback of the first Superman film, where people were saying, why is he doing all this, destroying everything, and incorporate it into the ideas of the second film. I respect that. I think that's an interesting way to, if you know you're making a franchise and you will have, in theory, a right of replying a sequel, it's a clever way to go about it. So fair enough on that. I don't know if it's brilliant. I don't know if it's... I haven't rewatched it in a long time. I've been meaning to lately, but I'm trying to sort of build up the courage, especially for that extended cut. I think it's a complicated film that, in retrospect, could have been a lot better, but I agree in admiring the ideas it had, even if the execution was patchy. So, on that part, I'll give it a thumbs up. I'll say that's a fair enough take to have. It doesn't come anywhere near the best Batman films. It's probably like 7th or 8th, but it's a fine take. Then to Will's. Zack Snyder has a clear vision for the DCEU, which he should have been allowed to continue. Those are two different points, I would say. I agree he did have a clear vision. He absolutely should not have been allowed to continue it, because there are two strands to look at. And I'm never one to start working for the business makers and studio execs, but their motivation isn't the execution of a long-term narrative from one director. It's, do people like it? Is it impacting?
A quick buck.
Yeah, is it making us money? Do people actually like it? The answer to both of those with Snyder was increasingly no. Those, even now, the DC films are making nothing, and that's in no small part because there was just no goodwill after. Man of Steel was divisive, sure, and it did okay. Batman vs Superman people didn't like and did badly. Justice League did very badly. There are obviously contextual factors behind that film, and the Snyder Cut is a better version of it. It is 4 hours long. It is indulgent. It is style over substance. It is everything Zack Snyder is criticised for being. And then that sort of brings me to the other strand I have on this take is he definitely shouldn't have been allowed to continue, because we've seen what he did. Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon is not good. It's derivative, badly directed, looks cheap, has no story, is so like self-effacing and oh, look at me, I'm so stylistic, I'm such a visionary, is waffle. And it's about time. I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with DC. It doesn't need to necessarily be him. I think we've seen since. We don't necessarily need it to be a cinematic universe. Joker made $1 billion. Batman was the best Batman film since The Dark Knight. Probably one of the best superhero films, period. We don't need to see more of these versions where Superman snaps General Zod's neck and Batman has a gun and shoots people in his bat pod and all of this nonsense. It was the time was right. It was, in 10 years' time, people will look back on that era and think, Jesus, I can't believe that happened in mainstream superhero cinema, because rough and strange and would never ever happen again. That level of one person sort of controlling everything, especially when it's a director like Zack Snyder, who isn't a good director. He's not. He hasn't made a good film. He hasn't. 300 isn't good. It's all right, to be fair, which is probably
300.
what built up
300
a lot
I have seen, finally.
Did you think
300
300
isn't good. No, it's not good.
No.
I think all the problems you said of being Snyderisms are present in that film, and that's why I have seen Man vs. Steel, Man on Steel. Man vs. Steel sounds more interesting than Rebel Moon, though.
Rebel Moon is
a film about a
Snyder,
man fighting against steel would be better.
He's a like faux intellectual and wants to come across like he's putting forward really unique and interesting ideas. And in BVS, yeah, he is. The rest of it is just like, come on, this is nonsense. It's either horribly written or badly directed. Like it was the time was right, and like I say, ultimately money talks, and there was no goodwill. They never could have continued that version of the DC continuity, because even with Aquaman 2, it was just diminishing returns time and time again. And that shouldn't be necessarily the metric by which a film is greenlit or a project is given up on. But it was about time. So I'm going to thumbs that one down. Oof, I feel that was quite cathartic.
Yeah, it felt like you were getting some bad blood out your system.
There's a bit of weight off. I feel a bit lighter, which is pleasant.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our last two takes, which are interestingly juxtapositioned. I don't know if that's a word. Oxymoronic. So the first is from Richard Price again. Thank you. Emerald Fennell, Best Director of the Moment. And then I'll gamble with the second one. You didn't submit one, so I sort of just paraphrased. Saltburn Poopy / Ass. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's Poopy / Ass. It's not that bad.
What was it? What would you say?
I think it's got a lot of hype and it's very popular, and I think it's
Is that its fault?
It's not. No, that's not its fault. But I think it's undeserving. I don't think it's I don't think it's very good. I was entertained, and that's it. I was reasonably entertained. I think the word I would use is vapid. It's pure style over substance. And then even the style towards the end gets a bit rubbish. I think Saltburn, like I said, I was interested, I was intrigued, but that intrigue just sort of dissipates towards the end, and then the credits start rolling, and you're just thinking that was all. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was expecting the ending to provide some. I don't know what I was expecting, but I just felt disappointed, and like what I had seen was just a bit pointless. Is a word I would use. Because it's. What do you think about Saltburn?
I really like Saltburn. I've seen it twice. I really like it, but I will kind of concede. I really like the characters. I like how nice it looks, how well it's shot, the performances. But I don't really know necessarily what it's trying to say. I've seen a lot of people online who have said it's like meant to be this demonization of the working class and celebration of upper class pompousness, and that. I don't agree with that. I don't like. You're meant to see these people and think, "Wow, you are the most shallow people ever." You're not meant to necessarily like them.
No, I would agree. I don't think it's trying to glorify.
I don't really know what it's also like. I get what you, and I really like it for the record.
It has no point in that sense. It's
No,
not
I never. I didn't. I don't.
making a point.
No, what is it trying to say? I don't know. Promising Young Woman. So Emerald
That
Fennell's
had a
previous film.
point.
It had a point that was well made, and it's a really good. This is the thing, and
Reasonably well made.
back to Richard's point.
I cannot.
The best.
That is Mr. Richard Price. Thank you for your input into this podcast, but I'm going to respectfully say you are wrong, and Emerald Fennell is not the best director. What is it? Best director at the moment, or working today, or
yeah.
At the moment. Well, I think if we're discounting sort of your legends who have the luxury of a back
If we're saying
catalogue of great
breakouts of
films.
the past 5
If
years,
we're saying 5 years or so recent films, Emerald Fennell's not even top 5. I can think of top 5. Well, just going off, sort of the new generation. Just going off, I can name 3 horror directors: Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, and Robert Eggers. They are all better than Emerald Fennell. Chloe Zhao, she's pretty recent. She is better than Emerald Fennell.
Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve, I guess you could say he's not quite as recent, but his first English language film was just over 10 years ago. So, and he's still, very much in the prime of his life. So at the moment, even this is like I said, this is discounting, your Scorseses, your Nolans, who are still putting out, well, in my opinion, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon are, easily some of the best work either of them have done. So it's not like these people have fallen off the wagon, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we have to discount, for the sake of this argument, that it goes without saying.
But then if we're talking sort of last 5 years, you've got The Irishman and Killers of the Flower Moon for Scorsese, and then you've got Oppenheimer and Tenet, which Tenet is not great, but Tenet is better than Saltburn.
No,
my opinion.
No way.
Tenet is far. I was very engaged watching Tenet. It's a stupid thriller, but I was very engaged. I haven't seen Tenet since I watched it in the cinema, but
Nor have
I would watch it again, and I'd be interested to see what I think again. But I enjoyed it. It's very silly, and there's a lot of what Nolan. We did review it, yeah.
I think it was one of our very first episodes.
Yeah, we ranked Nolan films.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of more directors, sort of who've put films out in the last 5 years, like with Emerald Fennell has also, lest we forget, only put out 2 films. Unless there was a very small independent film, which there probably was before Promising Young Woman. And also she did
probably in that bracket of only broken out.
Oh God, Yorgos Lanthimos. Come on. He all his films have been in the last 10 years again. Denis Villeneuve is clear. The list goes on. We're talking. I think Mark Jenkin is putting out better films. Near DaCosta, Ava DuVernay,
Brandon Cronenberg.
Infinity Pool. I haven't seen Infinity Pool or. He did that one with Caleb Landry Jones as well, didn't he? So I think am I right in saying we're both giving Emerald Fennell as the best director working at the moment a thumbs down?
Yes.
Me particularly a big thumbs down because I didn't. And I think retrospective, a lot of people didn't like Promising Young Woman as well. I thought a lot of people weren't happy with how it ends, and it's the police have to sort it all out.
Yeah, that's controversy. I haven't seen it since that Oscar season, but I do remember quite liking it.
I remember enjoying it, but retrospectively, having read what people thought, a lot of the points do make sense.
Yeah.
I don't think she's put out either. I don't think either of the films are sort of wow, that's a good film. Like I've sort of thought when I've watched The Lighthouse or Get Out or Hereditary or a lot of people. I like Nomadland more than a lot of people, but I couldn't even. If I'm talking about Chloe Zhao, I could say The Rider, her second film. These films are all better than either of Emerald Fennell's films. So Richard Price, again, thank you, but I disagree, respectfully, of course.
I disagree, but it said Emerald Fennell is.
You're pro Saltburn.
I'm certainly pro Saltburn, and I'm also pro Emerald Fennell, just not the extent of best right now. If it was best breakout director, or not best, but let's say top 5 of the past 5 years, I would say yeah, I probably agree. I really like Saltburn. I find it intoxicating, which is why your take gets one of my, not the heftiest thumbs down of the episode, but it's not insignificant.
I didn't think Saltburn was all that. But at least in comparison to the sort of the love and popularity it's received.
Yeah, I get that. I think this is an issue I've had. I saw it when it came out, and then it came onto Prime around Christmas of last year.
Christmas time, I think.
And that's sort of when it.
That's when Murder on the Dance Floor, yeah.
Yeah, it became like viral TikTok film, which I take issue with. I think the whole obsession around it from that is a bit reductive and just like, oh, it's I think people who like think it's the best film ever are the sort of people that haven't seen that many films outside of.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that Discussing Film put Saltburn has been nominated for 0 Oscar Academy Awards, and then someone quoted saying, "Yeah, because it's not the Teen Choice Awards," which I think.
I'm surprised it wasn't nominated for a single BAFTA.
Yeah, it was nominated for BAFTAs.
Was okay.
Oh yeah. Barry Keoghan, I think, is lead actor. Which again, I mean, the BAFTA nomination. We're probably running overtime now. But the BAFTA nominations were an abomination. Lily Gladstone not being nominated is probably the worst thing I've ever seen any awards. What's the word?
Yeah.
Ceremony do. I think it's graceful.
Graceful.
No disrespect to the other nominees who were in over her. But Lily Gladstone put in the best performance of the year.
Do the right thing and resign.
Yeah,
you're getting the thumbs down for the Saltburn take, although I'm not as anti it as I have been anti some other takes today.
And Richard Price, Emerald Fennell is not the best director at the moment. Yeah.
But would you go and see her next film?
Oh yeah, I think she's an interesting filmmaker. For sure.
Yeah, she is. And I think she makes films that nobody else does. And it's, especially Saltburn, is a kind of British film you don't ever, ever, ever get. So for that, you have to sort of.
Yeah. But no, the best. No. Top 5, entirely. Like I said, no. But Emerald Fennell, if you're listening, you're always welcome on the show.
Yep, I'm sure you are. Stranger things haven't really happened because we kind of with Jenkin a few years ago, Jenks, I guess you could call him.
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, us being the Funky Bunch, of course.
That's outreach from us rather than Mark himself approaching us. But it was a pleasant time nonetheless.
Indeed, it was.
And that's not a hot take. Mark Jenkin, gunted. Thumbs up. If you're listening, mate.
Yeah. Assume
certain you are. Certain. So, those are all the things we had. I think before we go, we should give sort of award for the best take. Not necessarily the one we agree with, but that's the most to it. And an award.
I think surely we're in agreement.
Yep.
For both of them.
We
don't need to sort of have a muted discussion. about
the worst, yeah. Griffiths,
yeah
Martin Scorsese, bad. Yeah,
that.
I'd advise you, whatever broadband provider with, ask them to cancel that because you need to go into hiding. Best
You're lucky you
take.
haven't been doxxed, mate.
If I knew how to do it, it would have happened by now.
And yeah, Scorsese, not mid. Worst take,
Oh,
Elgriff
best take.
21.
Best take Triemo. Sorry.
I think it's Triermo. I think
I think you're right.
we do both agree with it, but also it was.
There's so much nuance.
Yeah, and there's a lot sort of to tackle really with that one.
Yeah,
And
appreciate
like we said, it prompted a hearty discussion.
it. Did this Triemo guy clearly has conversationalism and sort of discussion starters coursing through his veins.
Yeah, he's
He should write a
probably
book.
like a teacher.
Yeah, or
Someone
a
who's
speaker.
sort of imparting knowledge to others.
Yeah, and sort of not even because it's not even like he told us what to discuss. He sort of guided us and gave us the blueprints for which to open up a deeper conversation.
Yeah, it's
And
like sort of the best writers,
Mm.
Whether that's your Wilfred Owens, your John Dunns, or your more your kind of
Alice
your John
Hosseini,
Steinbecks, or your Cormac McCarthy's,
Alice Boseman.
Yeah. Well,
Is that
no,
her name? I don't know.
Alice Sebold.
That's it.
Alice,
Yeah, yeah.
Alice Sebold.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but I didn't like The Lovely Bones. I hope you're okay.
Bad book. Sorry. Yeah, Triomo. Thank you. It's all I can. We're kind of in your debt. I feel quite.
But thank you to everyone that submitted their hot takes.
Yes, of course. We appreciate it.
We've been sat here chatting for. Wow. I mean, if you're still listening at this point, you're not gonna. Oh God, what am I talking about? If you're still listening at this point, well done, and thank you for your hot take.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side. Hopefully, episode 21 won't be 6 months away.
Should we? Well, we've already got one in the pipeline. Next time, we'll do a little next time. Next time on That Film Blog UK. It is the That Film Blog UK Alternative Oscars.
Oh yeah, baby. We need to get cooking on that soon.
Yeah, so that'll be dropping before the Oscars ceremony, which is, I think, is it the 10th?
I think it's the
something
9th.
Around there.
We'll try and get that out.
We'll get that out early March.
Yeah.
And we'll be giving our alternative Oscars. So I think the plan is to sort of come up with an alternative list, or not fully alternative, because we agree with, I assume, a fair chunk of
quite a lot.
The decision.
Yeah. Not insignificant, especially with the Oscars.
Especially because this year, I mean, we'll get into this next episode, but this year has been a fantastic year for film. So I'm very excited for that episode and the recording.
I hope
we hope wholeheartedly that you shall join us.
Yes.
Honor, privilege.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah. Enjoy
listening.
the rest of this leap year February.
Yeah. On February 29th, we're good on us.
Ooh.